Commander Jake Morrison looked out the big window of Space Station Aurora. He could see human ships getting ready to leave. After today, humans would not be part of the Galactic Council anymore. The station felt quiet, too quiet. For 30 years, humans had worked with aliens from across the galaxy. They had fought wars together, shared technology, and built trade routes that connected hundreds of worlds. Now it was ending. Jake touched the glass with his hand. Each ship below carried families, scientists, and soldiers who had lived among the stars for decades. They were all going home to Earth. The order had come from the highest levels of human government. Earth was done with galactic politics. Ambassador Lisa Grant walked into the council chamber one last time. She carried a simple data pad with humanity's final statement. The chamber was huge, with seats for delegates from 50 different species. Most of the aliens sat in groups, talking quietly among themselves. They barely looked at Lisa as she walked to the human section. The Zilani delegate was reading something on his screen. The Corvan representative was actually sleeping. Chairman Vexstar of the Hegemony was arguing with his aide about lunch plans. None of them seemed to care that this was a historic moment. Lisa had practiced her speech many times. She had worked on it for weeks, trying to find the right words. How do you tell an entire galaxy that you are leaving? How do you explain that? Humans were tired of being ignored? She stood up and activated the speaking device. A soft chime filled the chamber, but only a few aliens looked her way. Members of the Galactic Council, Lisa began. Her voice was calm and clear. I stand before you today to deliver humanity's final message to this body. The Zilani delegate yawned. He did not even try to hide it. Lisa continued. For 3 decades, humanity has served this council with dedication. We have provided military support in 17 major conflicts. Our engineers built the hyperspace relay network that connects your worlds. Our doctors created the medical protocols that stopped the Centauri plague. Some aliens were now paying attention, but others were still busy with their own conversations. Human traders established the safe passage agreements that protect merchant ships. Our scientists shared breakthrough technologies freely with all council members. Our peacekeeping forces maintained stability in disputed regions. Chairman Vexstar looked at his watch. He seemed bored. Despite these contributions, humanity's proposals have been rejected without consideration 47 times in the past 5 years. Our warnings about security threats have been dismissed as fear tactics. Our requests for equal representation have been denied repeatedly. The chamber was getting quieter now. More aliens were listening. Therefore, effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all council activities. We are ending our military partnerships, canceling our trade agreements, and recalling all human personnel from galactic service. Lisa paused. She had expected some reaction. Protests, questions, maybe even anger. Instead, she got silence. Chairman Vexstar nodded once. Thank you, Ambassador Grant. Your withdrawal notice has been received. Next agenda item. That was it. 30 years of partnership dismissed in 10 seconds. Lisa gathered her datapad and walked out. No one followed her. No one asked her to reconsider. The aliens simply moved on to discussing mineral rights in the Orion sector, on the stations. Command deck, Captain Ryan Clark received his orders. All human vessels are to withdraw immediately. The message read, return to Earth space. Discontinue all patrol activities. Shut down communication relays and defensive installations. Ryan had commanded the Third Fleet for 8 years. His ships protected trade routes from pirates and raiders. They had saved countless alien merchant vessels from attack. They had prevented 3 wars just by being present in disputed areas. Now they were going home. Signal all ships, Ryan told his communications officer. We are leaving. Full withdrawal to Earth space. The orders went out across the galaxy. On mining stations in the asteroid belts, human workers packed their equipment. On research outposts, near dangerous nebulas, human scientists downloaded their data and prepared to leave. On border worlds where human peacekeepers had maintained order for years, the soldiers quietly packed up and departed. Dr. Helen Wade was in her laboratory when the evacuation order came. She had been working with alien scientists for 15 years, studying diseases that affected multiple species. Their research had saved millions of lives. She looked at her workstation, covered with samples and data from dozens of worlds. Her alien colleagues had gone home for the day without saying goodbye. They probably did not even know this was her last day. Helen transferred her research files to a secure server. The aliens could keep the basic data, but the advanced medical techniques would go with her. She had created most of them anyway. As she packed her personal items, Helen thought about the Corvan scientist who had taken credit for her breakthrough. Cancer treatment. She remembered the Zelani researcher who had published her work under his own name. The alien governments had never corrected these false claims. Maybe it was better this way. Across the galaxy, human installations went dark one by one. The early warning sensors that watched for hostile ships powered down. The communication relays that carried messages between worlds fell silent. The automated defenses that protected shipping lanes deactivated. In the council chamber, the aliens continued their meeting. They discussed territorial disputes, trade regulations, and budget allocations. They did not seem to notice that half the galaxy's infrastructure had just vanished. Some humans felt sad about leaving. They had made friends among the alien species. They had built homes on distant worlds. But orders were orders, and Earth had made its decision. The last human transport ship left Galactic Council space at midnight, station time. Commander Jake Morrison watched it disappear into hyperspace. The galaxy suddenly felt much larger and much emptier. On Earth, people watched the news reports with mixed feelings. Some were angry that humanity had been treated so poorly. Others worried about what would happen without human involvement in galactic affairs. President Ellen Davis addressed the planet from her office in New Geneva. "We tried to be partners," she said. "We offered our help freely and asked only for respect in return. We did not receive it. So we are coming home." The president paused and looked directly into the camera. "Humanity will focus on our own growth and development. We will explore new regions of space. We will build better lives for our people. The galaxy made its choice. Now we have made ours." As the last human ship crossed into Earth space, the galaxy continued spinning. Trade ships followed their routes. Alien governments held their meetings. Life went on as if nothing had changed, but something had changed. In council chambers and alien capitals across the galaxy, a few wise leaders were beginning to ask themselves a troubling question. What exactly had humanity been doing for them all these years? The answer to that question would come soon enough. 6 months had passed since the humans left. At first, nothing seemed different in the galaxy. Trade ships still moved between worlds. Alien governments still held their meetings. The Galactic Council still debated and argued about the same old problems. But slowly, cracks began to show. The first sign of trouble came from the Outer Rim territories. Captain Zex of the Corvan Empire was studying star charts in his command ship when the report arrived. 3 systems had gone quiet. No communication signals. No trade ship arrivals. Just silence. Zex sent scout ships to investigate. What they found shocked him. The systems had been attacked by raiders. Entire colonies were destroyed. Merchant fleets had been wiped out. The attackers had vanished without a trace. How did this happen? Zex demanded of his intelligence officer. Where were our early warning systems? The officer looked uncomfortable. Sir, The early warning network was run by humans. When they left, the sensors went offline. Zex stared at the tactical display. For years, human monitoring stations had watched the dangerous regions of space. They had given advance warning of pirate fleets and hostile movements. Without them, attacks could happen anywhere, anytime. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Krat of the Hegemony faced a similar problem. The Spiral Nebula Passage had become a death trap for merchant ships. Pirates were attacking convoys that used to travel safely through the region. "Send our patrol ships," Krat ordered. "Sir, we only have 12 ships available," his aide replied. "The humans used to patrol this area with 50 vessels." Krat felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He had never realized how many human ships had been protecting galactic trade routes. Now that they were gone, the galaxy seemed full of dark, dangerous places. The Zelani Council was having an emergency meeting. Trade losses were mounting every week. Insurance companies were refusing to cover ships traveling through formerly safe regions. Several major shipping companies had already gone out of business. Counselor Pex studied the financial reports with growing alarm. "Our economy is down 15% in just 6 months," he announced to the assembly. "If this continues, we will face a complete economic collapse." "What about hiring more security ships?" suggested another counselor. "With what money?" Pex replied. "We spent our defense budget on those new pleasure palaces for the elite districts. Besides, building a fleet takes years. We need protection now." In the medical sector, the crisis was even worse. Dr. Yell of the Central Medical Authority was dealing with a spreading plague on Centauri Prime. The disease was similar to ones that had been stopped before, but the treatment protocols were not working. "Where are the human medical files?" Dr. Yell asked her assistant. "They took them when they left," the assistant replied. "We only have the basic treatment data they left behind." Dr. Yell tried every standard treatment she knew. Nothing worked. The plague continued spreading, jumping from planet to planet. In the old days, she would have called Dr. Helen Wade or one of the other human medical experts. Now there was no one to call. The human doctors had been the best in the galaxy at treating cross-species diseases. They had developed most of the medical protocols that kept different alien species healthy. Without their expertise, simple diseases were becoming deadly epidemics. On Earth, Admiral Susan Hayes watched the galactic news reports from her office at Luna Station. Her ships were docked and powered down, following strict orders not to get involved in any galactic conflicts. The Corvin Empire just lost another system to raiders, her intelligence officer reported. That makes 8 systems attacked in the past month. Susan nodded without emotion. "Any requests for assistance?" "Dozens, ma'am. From the Corvins, the Hegemony, the Zelani Council, and 6 minor governments. They are offering substantial payments for protection services." "Declined," Susan said firmly. "We are not the galaxy's police force anymore." The officer hesitated. "Ma'am, some of these attacks are hitting civilian populations. Families, children, Susan's expression softened for a moment, then hardened again. "I have my orders. We help. No one unless directly authorized by Earth Command." Meanwhile, Dr. Kevin Brooks was monitoring the collapse of scientific research across the galaxy. From his laboratory on Mars, he watched as one breakthrough project after another failed without human involvement. The Andromedan Gateway project was the most serious failure. Humans had designed most of the engineering systems that kept the massive space portal operational. Without regular maintenance from human technical teams, the Gateway was developing critical problems. "The power fluctuations are getting worse," reported engineer Pete Collins, who was monitoring the Gateway's status remotely. "At this rate, the whole system will fail within a year." Kevin shook his head. The Gateway connected distant parts of the galaxy allowing instant travel between regions that would normally take months to reach. If it failed, entire sectors would be cut off from galactic civilization. But that was not humanity's problem anymore. The alien governments were starting to panic, but they were too proud to admit their mistakes. Instead of asking for human help, they blamed each other for the growing chaos. The Corvan Empire accused the hegemony of failing to maintain border security. The hegemony blamed the Zelani for not funding enough patrol ships. The Zelani pointed fingers at smaller governments for not cooperating with trade protection efforts. In the Galactic Council chambers, arguments broke out daily. Chairman Vexstar struggled to maintain order as delegates shouted accusations at each other. "The economic crisis is everyone's fault but ours," declared the Corvan representative. "You started 3 wars in the past month," the hegemony delegate shot back. "How is that our fault? We would not need to fight if you provided adequate security." The Corvan replied. Round and round the arguments went, solving nothing. Some younger alien leaders began to speak quietly about contacting Earth, but the older, more powerful politicians refused to consider it. Asking humans for help would mean admitting they had been wrong. It would mean confessing that they needed humanity more than humanity needed them. Their pride was more important than practical solutions. As the months passed, the situation grew worse. Pirate fleets became bolder, attacking major shipping centers. Disease outbreaks spread across multiple systems. Trade networks collapsed as insurance costs skyrocketed. Technical systems failed without human maintenance expertise. The galaxy was falling apart, piece by piece. On Earth, President Ellen Davis received daily reports about the chaos. Her advisors suggested offering limited assistance, but she refused. "We warned them about these problems for years," she said during a cabinet meeting. "They called us fearmongers and warmongers. They said we were trying to scare them into giving us more power. But people are dying," argued Secretary of State John Taylor. "People were dying before, and they did not listen to our solutions then," the president replied. "Maybe when they lose enough ships and colonies, they will start taking security seriously." The galaxy had dismissed humanity as junior partners who should be grateful for any recognition. Now they were learning what the galaxy looked like without human protection, human medicine, human technology, and human peacekeeping. It was not a pretty sight, but the worst was yet to come. 1 year after humanity left the galactic stage, something terrible emerged from the dark space between galaxies. The first reports came from the far edge of known space, where automated monitoring stations had gone silent one by one. Commander Vel of the Altair Defense Force was reviewing routine patrol reports when the emergency signal arrived. It was weak and broken, coming from the Outer Rim Observation Post. Unknown ships, massive fleet, They came from nowhere, requesting immediate. The message cut off to static.vel, tried to contact the observation post. No response. He sent 3 scout ships to investigate. Only one came back, and its pilot was babbling about impossible things. "Ships bigger than space stations," the pilot gasped. "Hundreds of them. They destroyed everything. The colonies, the defense platforms, everything is gone." Vel studied the fragmentary sensor data the scout had managed to record. The attacking ships used technology he had never seen before. Their weapons turned entire planets into molten rock in minutes. Their shields absorbed every weapon fired at them without taking damage. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we are receiving similar reports from 17 other systems. Something is attacking the outer colonies." Vel felt his blood turn cold. An invasion fleet was sweeping through galactic space, destroying everything in its path. But where had it come from? How had they gotten so close without being detected? On the capital world of the hegemony, Admiral Kratt received the invasion reports with growing horror. Enemy fleets were attacking on 12 different fronts. His forces were scattered across the galaxy, trying to deal with pirates and raiders. He had no ships available to respond to this new threat. What do we know about these attackers? Crad demanded. Very little, sir, his intelligence chief replied. They appeared without warning. No diplomatic contact, no demands, just destruction. Our analysts believe they come from outside our galaxy. From where outside our galaxy? We do not. No, sir. Our deep space monitoring network went offline when the humans left. Krat stared at the tactical display showing enemy advances. Red markers indicated destroyed systems. Yellow markers showed systems under attack. The red zone was growing larger. Every hour, for years, human deep space sensors had watched the void between galaxies. They had detected strange signals and movement in the darkness beyond known space. Human scientists had warned about potential threats from those regions. The Galactic Council had dismissed those warnings as human paranoia. Now the threat was real, and it was destroying everything in its path. The enemy called themselves the Void Hunters. They were a species that traveled between galaxies, consuming the resources of entire civilizations before moving on to the next target. They had been watching this galaxy for decades, waiting for the right moment to attack. The moment had come. When humanity withdrew its deep space monitoring network, General Paul Carter received the invasion reports at Earth Defense Command. He was not surprised. His intelligence teams had been tracking Void Hunter movements for 5 years. They had tried to warn the Galactic Council repeatedly. Sir, his aide reported, we are receiving urgent messages from every major alien government. They are requesting immediate military assistance. Paul looked at the messages scrolling across his screen. Desperate pleas for help from the same governments that had ignored human warnings and dismissed human security concerns. What are orders? The aide asked. No response, Paul said quietly. We are not part of their conflicts anymore. But sir, entire civilizations are being destroyed. Paul turned to look at his aide. Where was their concern when we warned them about this threat? They called us warmongers and fearmongers. They said we were trying to create conflicts to justify military spending. The aide looked uncomfortable, but said nothing more. Onea. Alien worlds. Panic was spreading faster than the Void Hunter fleets. The Zelani Council held emergency sessions every hour, but no one had any solutions. Their military forces were designed for small conflicts and police actions, not galaxy-wide warfare. We need to contact Earth immediately, declared Counselor Pex during one heated debate. Absolutely not, replied Elder Zor. We cannot show such weakness. It would destroy our credibility. What credibility? Pex shot back. Half our colonies are ash, our trade networks are collapsed, and we have no defense against these invaders. Our credibility died months ago, but the elder counselors refused to bend. Pride was more important than survival. The Corvin Empire tried to fight the Void Hunters with traditional tactics. They sent their largest battle fleets to meet the enemy in direct combat. The results were catastrophic. Entire fleets were destroyed in minutes. The Corvin military, once proud and powerful, was reduced to scattered remnants hiding in asteroid fields. Emperor Grix watched the battle reports with growing despair. His empire was collapsing, but he could not bring himself to ask humans for help. It would mean admitting that his aggressive expansion policies had been wrong. It would mean confessing that he needed the peaceful humans more than they needed him. So, the empire burned while pride held him back. Dr. Yell was trying to treat refugees fleeing the Void Hunter advance when she discovered something terrifying. The invaders were not just destroying planets. They were spreading biological weapons that made survivors sick with diseases that had no cure. She tried every treatment protocol in the medical database. Nothing worked. The diseases were designed to affect multiple species in ways that standard medicine could not handle. We need human medical expertise, she told the Central Medical Authority. Dr. Helen Wade and her team developed treatments for unknown biological agents. We have to contact them. Impossible, came the reply. Political considerations prevent any contact with Earth. So the plague spread while politics blocked the cure. Colonel Amy Rodriguez was monitoring the refugee crisis from Earth's border. Stations. Millions of aliens were fleeing toward human space, begging for sanctuary. Many were carrying the biological weapons that the Void Hunters had unleashed. Orders are to maintain the quarantine, Amy told her staff. No alien ships are permitted to enter human territory. Ma'am, there are families with children in those ships. Her medical officer protested. Amy felt a pain in her heart, but her duty was clear. We cannot risk contaminating human space with unknown diseases. The quarantine holds. Some of our officers wanted to help. Some wanted to fight the Void Hunters. But Earth had given clear instructions. Humanity would not get involved in galactic conflicts. The aliens had made their choice when they dismissed human partnership. Now they would face the consequences alone. The Void Hunter advance continued across the galaxy. World after world fell to their superior technology and ruthless tactics. The great alien civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for centuries were crumbling like sand castles. In the Galactic Council chambers, Chairman Vexstar faced the collapse of everything he had known. Half the council members were dead or missing. Their home worlds were destroyed or under siege. The great alliance that had governed the galaxy was falling apart. We must contact Earth, he finally admitted during what would be the Council's last session. We need human military support immediately, but it was too late. The communication networks were down. The diplomatic channels were severed. Even if they could reach Earth, would the humans answer? The galaxy trembled as the Void Hunters swept across system after system. The silence that had followed humanity's departure was now filled with the screams of the dying and the desperate cries for help that would never come. The price of pride was higher than anyone had imagined. The war against the Void Hunters lasted 18 bloody months. When it finally ended, the galaxy was a broken shadow of its former self. Entire star systems were nothing but glowing debris fields. Billions of lives had been lost. Great civilizations that had existed for thousands of years were reduced to scattered survivors, hiding in distant corners of space. The victory, such as it was, came only when the remaining alien governments found old human military files in their data archives. Human tactical doctrines, battle strategies, and weapon designs became the foundation for the final desperate counterattack that drove the Void Hunters back to the dark spaces between galaxies. But the cost was terrible beyond imagination. On Earth, President Ellen Davis walked through the halls of the rebuilt Global Defense Center in New Geneva. Through the windows, she could see the thriving cities that had grown during humanity's isolation. Earth's population had reached new heights. Technology had advanced rapidly without the need to share discoveries with ungrateful alien partners. Madam President, her aide announced, the latest reports from galactic space have arrived. Ellen reviewed the documents with a heavy heart. The Galactic Council had disbanded completely. The great trade networks that had connected hundreds of worlds were gone. Most of the galaxy had returned to primitive space travel and local commerce. Any formal requests for contact? Ellen asked. Dozens every day, Mom. From survivor groups, refugee camps, and the few remaining planetary governments. They all want the same thing. Ellen knew what they wanted: help, protection, medical aid, technology. Everything that humanity had provided freely for 30 years before being dismissed as junior partners, not worthy of respect. Continue the standard response, Ellen said. All requests are being reviewed. No timeline for decisions. It was a polite way of saying no. Captain Ben Miller commanded the Soul Defense Force from his flagship stationed near Jupiter. His ships were the most advanced in known space, built with technology that had flourished during Earth's isolation. They could outfight anything the old galaxy had produced, but they stayed home. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are detecting alien ships at the edge of our sensor range. They appear to be refugees seeking sanctuary." Ben studied the tactical display. A small convoy of damaged ships was approaching the outer boundaries of human space. Their hull designs showed they were survivors from the destroyed Corvan Empire. "Orders remain unchanged," Ben said firmly. "Maintain the quarantine zone. No alien vessels are permitted to enter human territory. Sir, our scans show they have wounded aboard, women and children." Ben felt the weight of command. Every instinct told him to help those people, but his orders were clear. Earth would not risk contamination or involvement in galactic conflicts. "Signal them to turn back," he ordered. "Direct them to the nearest non-human settlement." The alien ships received the message and slowly turned away. Ben watched them disappear into the void, carrying their cargo of suffering back to a galaxy that could no longer protect them. Dr. Rachel Davis, Earth's new foreign minister, was reviewing applications for renewed diplomatic contact. Her office was filled with desperate pleas from alien survivors, begging for any kind of relationship with humanity. Most of the letters followed the same pattern: apologies for past treatment, promises of better cooperation, offers of territory, resources, and technology in exchange for basic protection services. Rachel had been a junior diplomat during the old days when humans were treated as second-class citizens in galactic affairs. She remembered the casual dismissals, the stolen credit for human achievements, and the constant struggle to be taken seriously. "Should we respond to any of these?" her assistant asked. "Perhaps," Rachel said carefully, "but only under very specific conditions." She was drafting new protocols for any future galactic engagement. Humanity would participate only as equals. Full recognition of human contributions. Absolute veto power over decisions affecting human interests. Equal representation in any governing body. And most importantly, the aliens would have to prove they had learned from their mistakes, in the ruins of former galactic civilization. Small groups of survivors struggled to rebuild. The Zelani had managed to save 3 of their original 12 worlds. The hegemony controlled barely a dozen systems out of their former empire of hundreds. The proud Corvan military was reduced to a few patrol ships protecting refugee camps. Elder Zor of the Zelani Council sat in his damaged command center, staring at intelligence reports about human activities. According to their scouts, Earth was thriving. Human colonies were expanding into previously unexplored regions. Their technology was advancing rapidly. Their military was stronger than ever. Meanwhile, the Zelani were rationing food and struggling to maintain basic life support on their surviving worlds. "Perhaps it is time to reconsider our position regarding Earth," Zor said quietly to his aide. "Sir, we have lost everything. Our pride, our empire, our people. What do we have left to lose by asking for help?" The aide looked uncomfortable. "The other council members would never agree to it." "Then maybe it is time for new council members," Zor replied. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening in the halls of power that still existed. Younger leaders who had lived through the Void Hunter War were beginning to question the old policies. Why had they rejected human partnership? Why had they ignored human warnings? Why had pride been more important than survival? But change came. Slowly, especially among species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. On Mars, Dr. Kevin Brooks was monitoring the collapse of galactic science and technology. Without human innovation and collaboration, research had ground to a halt. The great projects that had once advanced civilization were abandoned or failing. The Andromedan Gateway had finally collapsed, cutting off entire sectors from each other. Medical research had regressed to pre-contact levels. Space exploration had stopped completely as resources went to basic survival. "It is like watching the fall of an empire," Kevin told his research team. "Everything that took centuries to build has crumbled in less than 2 years. Should we offer to help?" asked Dr. Lisa Stone, one of his senior scientists. "Help with what?" Kevin replied. "They need to rebuild their entire civilization from scratch. That is not something we can fix with a few research papers. The galaxy had to learn to stand on its own. The question was whether enough of it would survive the learning process. As the months passed, small delegations of alien survivors began appearing at the edges of human space. They did not come as conquerors or even as equals. They came as beggars, hoping to learn from the species they had so carelessly dismissed. Captain Miller received orders to allow limited contact with these groups. Not military alliance or protection services, but basic humanitarian aid. Food, medical supplies, and technical assistance for the most desperate cases. It was a start. President Davis addressed the Earth Coalition from her office, overlooking the rebuilt capital. "The galaxy chose to reject our partnership," she said. "They paid a terrible price for that choice. We will not make the same mistake they did. Humanity is willing to engage with galactic civilization again, but only as equals. Only with full recognition of our contributions and our rights. And only when we are convinced that our former partners have truly learned from their failures." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "The galaxy trembled in silence when we left. It will have to earn the right to have us return." Outside her window, construction crews were working on new spaceports and research facilities. Humanity was preparing for a larger role in the universe. But this time, it would be on human terms. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson about the value of partnership. Some chairs at the table, once empty, could never truly be filled again. But perhaps, with time and humility, new partnerships could be built on a foundation of mutual respect. The future remained unwritten, but one thing was certain. Humanity would never again be taken for granted. The galaxy had learned what silence sounded like. Now it was time to discover what equality might bring.